Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something truly incredible. We are going to explore one of the most profound and, honestly, sensory-rich passages from the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata. We're going to decode the exact logistics, the immense emotions, and the elaborate rituals of the royal funeral of King Pandu and his queen Madri. Now, whether you're already deeply familiar with ancient texts or you're just kind of fascinated by how human beings process immense grief on a monumental scale, this text gives us an absolutely incredible window into the past. We'll see exactly how a society orchestrates a king's farewell, perfectly balancing massive political theater with just raw, heartbreaking human emotion.
Okay, let's dive into this. The entire sequence kicks off with a royal decree from Dhritarashtra. He says, "Lament not for the sinless Pandu. He was a worthy king and hath left behind him 5 heroic sons." You know, this isn't just a brother trying to hold back his tears. This decree immediately sets both the emotional and the political stakes of our story right out of the gate. It's an acknowledgement of an era ending, sure, but it's also a remarkably swift political maneuver to validate the legacy of Pandu's 5 sons, the Pandavas, who the text describes as being equal to the Celestials themselves. It sends a clear message to the kingdom. The king is dead, yes, but his strength, it lives on.
Section 1. The Royal Decree, Orchestrating a King's Farewell.
So before we even see the royal bodies, the text places a massive emphasis on logistics and the sheer grand scale of these operations. Dhritarashtra actually instructs Vidura to celebrate these rites in right royal style. But what does that actually look like in practice? Well, it means a massive, kingdom-wide redistribution of wealth. The text specifically points out that cattle, cloths, gems, and diverse wealth are to be handed out to literally anyone who asks. And the reason why? It's explicitly stated that it's for the good of their souls. It's such a fascinating look at the spiritual economy of the time, where earthly generosity and giving away material wealth was believed to directly pave the way for the spiritual well-being of the deceased in the afterlife.
Now, as they're planning these grand rites, we get this incredibly specific, deeply intimate instruction regarding Queen Madri. The text says, "Let Madri's body be so carefully wrapped up that neither the sun nor Vayu, the god of wind, may behold it." Just think about the level of deep respect and sanctity being conveyed right there. The queen is to be shielded so completely and with such absolute reverence that even the fundamental elements of nature, the harsh light of the sun and the invisible touch of the wind, are forbidden from gazing upon her. It's a remarkably poetic instruction, isn't it? It perfectly highlights the profound reverence the entire kingdom holds for her.
Section 2. Preparing the royal bodies, rituals of respect.
Let's move in a bit closer and see how this builds. We're transitioning from that grand macro scale down to the highly intimate physical preparation of the deceased. The family priests take charge of what is a deeply multi-sensory process. Step 1, the bodies are washed with pure water brought in golden vessels. Step 2, they're smeared with fragrant pastes, layering on the rich, heavy scent of sandalwood. And Step 3, they are dressed in white indigenous fabrics. Beyond all that, the hearse itself is completely decked out with garlands, seasonal flowers, and sprinkled with excellent perfumes. Honestly, you can almost smell that heavy, beautiful fragrance jumping right off the page.
And the results of all this meticulous preparation is captured beautifully in this next quote. "With his new suit on, the king seemed as if he was living and only sleeping on a costly bed." The text uses this powerful imagery to really convey the sheer artistry and tender care of the priests. They've essentially transformed the stark, cold reality of death into the peaceful illusion of rest. You could imagine how it must have brought a certain kind of comfort to the living, seeing their fierce, lion-hearted prince looking as though he might just wake up at any moment.
Section 3. The Grand Procession, a Kingdom in Mourning.
Now, what's really interesting about this next phase is how the text moves us out onto the streets for a massive parade of grief. The sheer scale and organization of the procession is absolutely striking. Up at the front, you have priests clad in white pouring libations of clarified butter onto a blazing sacred fire. Right in the center, the hearse is being carried on human shoulders, flanked by grand white umbrellas of state and accompanied by the sounds of diverse musical instruments. But the most incredible element is actually who follows. It's not just the royal family. Thousands of citizens, and the text specifically lists the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. They all walk together. This collective grief literally unites every single caste and class of the entire kingdom right there behind the hearse.
And as this massive, swelling wave of humanity moves forward, the air is just thick with their wailing.
The citizens cry out, "O prince, where dost thou go, leaving us behind and making us forlorn and wretched forever?" It's a completely heavy, crushing atmosphere. The text even notes that the great patriarch Bhishma, the incredibly wise Vidura, and the young Pandavas themselves are all weeping aloud right alongside the thousands of everyday citizens. It is this shared, totally unhidden expression of absolute devastation. If we trace through the text, we can map out the physical and symbolic route of this procession. They start off in the built environment, the structured, familiar city of the kingdom. Then they journey outward, eventually carrying the hearse into what the text calls a romantic wood, physically moving into the realm of nature. Finally, they arrive at the ultimate sacred boundary, the banks of the river Ganga. This entire physical journey, moving from the city to the sacred river, it really represents the transition of the king and queen out of the earthly domain of their rule and into the cosmic domain of the afterlife.
Section 4. The Funeral Pyre, Fire and Grief.
Reaching the emotional and physical climax at the river, the text creates an intense, almost blinding contrast. On one hand, we have the immense physical grandeur of the pyre. We're talking blazing flames fed by clarified butter, beautiful lotuses, and fragrant sandal paste. It is a scene of supreme ritual beauty. But then, juxtaposed right against that beauty is raw, chaotic human grief. Kausalya cries out, "O my son," and literally falls to the ground completely senseless. The lamentations of Kunti are described as so piercing that the text says they touch the very birds of the air. Even these traditionally stoic, wise figures like Bhishma and Vidura are completely disconsolate. The beautiful ritual, no matter how grand, just cannot mask the ugly, devastating reality of loss.
Section 5. 12 Days of Mourning, a communal bond.
Following the watery ceremony performed by all the royals, the whole tone of the text shifts. We move into a quiet, somber aftermath that is marked by a truly profound sense of social unity. The everyday people, even though they're filled with their own sorrow, begin to console the bereaved sons of Pandu. The Pandavas and their friends, completely lost in their grief, sleep on the bare ground. But here's the most incredible part. Seeing this, the Brahmanas and the other citizens decide to renounce their beds as well. The entire city, across all social strata, young and old, simply abandons the comfort of their beds to sleep on the hard earth in absolute solidarity with the princes.
So the crucial point we really need to focus on is the number 12. This massive, kingdom-wide state of shared discomfort, this collective weeping, lasted for a full 12 days. Just imagine that for a second. An entire city sleeping on the ground for nearly 2 weeks. That isn't just an expression of sadness. It is an incredible mechanism for social cohesion. Enduring this physical discomfort together cements an unbreakable bond of empathy between the common people and the young, bereaved Pandava sons. Sons who, let's remember, will one day definitely need their support.
Which leaves us with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up today. How do these incredibly elaborate, sensory-rich ancient rites serve to ultimately unify a grieving kingdom? From the distribution of vast wealth, to the shared wailing on the banks of the Ganga, to 12 straight days of sleeping on the bare ground, these aren't just rituals of saying goodbye. They are powerful tools for holding a society together when its center has been completely lost. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer and for diving deep into the profound depths of this ancient text with us. Keep seeking to understand the stories that shape us.